We all have memories that haunt us. It could be the time you embarrassed yourself in front of everybody in school, moving out of your childhood home, or in the case of Trip Fontaine and the Central Boys from the Virgin Suicides, a person or multiple people. This feeling is captured so perfectly by Sofia Coppola in her directorial debut, 1999's The Virgin Suicides. Sophia is so often dismissed as a director. She's accused of being all style over substance, or only got where she is because of nepotism on her father's side. While the Coppola name for sure helped her get her foot in the door, I can't help but think she would have gotten just as successful without it, and it does to me seem at least a little bit like she gets this only because she's a woman. There are plenty of male directors who are in very similar boats and are often, in my opinion, style over substance that almost never get these complaints. Sofia Coppola is one of my favorite directors. She has such a distinct voice that comes through so clearly in all of her films. From Lost in Translation to Marie Antoinette, Sofia makes bold choices that, for me at least, work. The Virgin Suicides feels hazy, like a memory, and drenched with teenage melancholy and ennui. This tone and style perfectly matches the story being told and elevates it. The Lisbon sisters, the titular virgins, are not characters in this film. They're more of a presence, a collective of angelic, unknowable girls.
Cecilia, the youngest, was 13. And Lux was 14. Bonnie was 15. Mary was 16. And Therese was 17.
Coppola tells a story from a point of view of the neighborhood boys who are fascinated by the Lisbon girls. We only ever learn what the boys learn about the Lisbons through the limited interactions with them, discussions with others that know them, and by reading their diaries and notes.
And so we started to learn about their lives, coming to hold collective memories of times we hadn't experienced. We felt the imprisonment of being a girl, the way it made your mind active and dreamy, and how you ended up knowing what colors went together. We knew that the girls were really women in disguise, that they understood love and even death, and that our job was merely to create the noise that seemed to fascinate them.
Lux Lisbon and Trip Fontaine, played by Kirsten Dunst and Josh Hartnett, are arguably the closest we get to real main characters. Even still, we know very little about Trip and even less about Lux. We know that they hooked up. We know Trip plays football. We know Lux loves rock and roll. We know Trip has 2 dads and self-confidence issues. And we know Lux has incredibly strict parents and broke curfew, leading to a tighter control from her parents. Josh Hartnett as Trip Fontaine steals the show. It is by far Hartnett's best role and uses his natural charm and charisma better than any other film. His introduction in the film is a fantastic moment. The slow-motion strut to Magic Man by Heart, the hair, the jacket, the way every woman just turns their head to stare at him. It almost wouldn't work, but Sofia makes it work somehow, helped by the charms of Josh Hartnett, obviously. Every scene in this movie just works perfectly for me. I want to focus on 2 specific scenes, however. One of them is going to be the movie theater scene and the car scene, both of which are focused on Trip Fontaine and Lux Lisbon. The theater scene, in which Lux and Trip slowly build towards holding hands, is such a great bit of tension. The slow build, the pullbacks, the final release when they finally hold hands and Trip finally asks Lux out. This is exactly how the little moments feel when you're that age. Just the building tension and will you, won't you, am I gonna do it?
Likewise, the low pressure area slides down the sides of the high pressure area. They swirl in and around one another, creating the beginnings of the storm. In this footage, taken from U.S. Navy Weather Patrol aircraft, we can clearly observe the 2 masses, one high pressure and one low pressure, coming in contact with one another. The result is a surging storm of tremendous strength that strikes with forceful determination. such as continents or large islands. It slowly dies.
It's been calmly. His ass is grass. I'm gonna ask you out.
Bad chance.
The car scene is the exact opposite of this, but it perfectly captures the sudden and intense passion of young love. The way Tripp is just sitting there relaxing, and then almost like a jump scare, Lux appears and just they start making out. And it's over just as quickly as it started. When Cecilia, the youngest Lisbon, kills herself early into the film, her memory seems to hang over the Lisbon family like the sword of Damocles. Like any mention of what happened will cause the family to implode. For the central group of boys, however, her death and subsequent further isolation of the sisters only heightens the mystery and their interest in the girls. When the remaining Lisbon sisters commit suicide as a group towards the end of the film, it is shocking and sudden. Just like the boys that find them, we are left shocked and wondering why. Why did they commit suicide? Did the tight restrictions put upon them by their parents push them into it? Is there some hereditary mental illness that has gone unnoticed and undiagnosed? Did Lux convince them to do it? Is Trip Fontaine to blame? He seems to blame himself when we see him in rehab. It ultimately doesn't matter why the Lisbon sisters commit suicide. What matters is the impact that they had on the central boys and the neighborhood as a whole. The death of the Lisbons coincides with the death of the Detroit auto industry and the resulting decline of the city and its suburbs. This combination of factors lingers in the boys' minds forever. We never get to fully know the Lisbon sisters. We get a picture, a snapshot, an idea of who they were. They remain in our minds like a puzzle we just can't solve. If we can figure that out, then maybe, just maybe, we can resolve our own memories that haunt us. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. It means the world to me. I recently rewatched The Virgin Suicides as a part of a Criterion Collection deep dive I was doing. And by deep dive, I mean I rewatched everything I own on the Criterion Collection, and then I dove through some of the Criterion Channel stuff for another video that I'm working out that'll hopefully be out either later this month or early next month. I've got a good chunk of work on that one done, but I'm trying to be a little more in-depth and research-based in that one. But rewatching The Virgin Suicides just reminded me how much I love it and Sofia Coppola's work as a whole. If you haven't watched any of her movies, I would definitely recommend checking them out. Start with probably The Virgin Suicides, go to Lost in Translation, and if you want, I would recommend Marie Antoinette. I know it got a lot of hate because a lot of people didn't like that it used contemporary music, like pop punk, but it's about, obviously, like, French aristocrats, but that worked for me, and I get why it didn't work for a lot of people, so I know that film's a little more divisive. And then I keep forgetting the name of one of her newer ones. I can't remember the name of it right now. I've only watched that one once, and I didn't like it as much as the older ones. But anyway, if you haven't seen any of Sofia Coppola's work, definitely recommend checking her out. She's a great director. If you haven't seen any Coppola movies, watch her and her dad's movies because they're both great. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next video. It'll be about the Criterion Collection and why it's important not only to me, but to cinema as a whole.